Hi, this is Professor Bloom, one of your eCore Introduction to General Psychology instructors. I'm going to give you a fireside chat about Chapter 1. And the fireside chat is simply for me to peruse the chapter and give you an opportunity to kind of listen to some of these ideas as they scroll past to set you up for your reading of the chapter. Obviously, Introduction to Psychology in an Introduction to General Psychology class is going to kind of be a really big look. It's going to kind of go over people who are really, for people teaching psychology, super famous names, ones that we want you to know more about. We also want you to get an idea of what psychology is, the methods that are used in psychology to collect data, to analyze data on humans is, of course, something that is very unique in terms of methodology. Unlike, a laboratory where you have very highly controlled settings, people are not as highly controlled as you can imagine. But nevertheless, we study people and we do research. The chapter starts out with kind of these older ideas about what psychology is and where it came from. Of course, people have always been interested in the mind. We have philosophy in how people behave and act, which could be philosophy and theology, poetry, literature, and art, all trying to make some sense of the human condition. As we kind of scroll along here, we want you to know the merits of an education in psychology. And this course, like all courses, have course objectives that range from understanding yourself and understanding others to understanding the research methods that are part of the study of psychology. And we also want you to know who the American Psychological Association is and how to find their website and to look in there. There's information in there for students about research, about the different divisions in psychology. I think when you're reading, it's a really good idea to go into any of the links that are available to you. This is more information about being in a decision mindedness of choosing psychology at some point, and I personally hope you do study psychology. I love psychology. I love to think about it. I love to teach it, and I think all your instructors in eCore are like-minded. We do this because we just really love the content of this course. So each chapter will have its own learning objectives. What is a learning objective? Well, by the end of the section, you should be able to have understanding in all these areas. Certainly anything from these sort of big names of Wilhelm Wundt and James and Freud and other names, of course, that would be in here for you to look at, get you started and get you in a kind of collective mindset with every single person that's taking Introduction to Psychology in the entire country is doing similar work now, looking at Wilhelm Wundt, wondering what's the difference between structuralism and functionalism. There's some really good definitions in the course material about how to think out structuralism and functionalism. We don't use those terms anymore, yet we have to understand them in order to understand the roots and sort of the startup of psychology. William James and functionalism. I'm fond of the little charcoal drawings. For some reason, I just thought those were a good way to depict these figures. As I go through and stream of consciousness this for you, we get into Freud. So many people have negative feelings about Freud. So many people have not read Freud. You will be in the group of people that are going to give Freud his due, in that you're going to learn about his ideas and perhaps even have some links that can lead you into his writing, so you can get a sense of what he was trying to do and the massive task he undertook to change the way we think about ourselves. So, for example, not being the master of our own home, meaning that we have an unconscious that makes decisions for us unwittingly, which, of course, we need to think about and consider. Gestalt psychology, another branch of psychology. So you have psychoanalysis, you have Gestalt psychologists, you have sort of the birth, if you will, of behaviorism, and the name associated Pavlov, which we always think is the person with the dog, which is true. Watson, the person who conditioned little Albert. If you haven't heard of that, you'll learn more. And B.F. Skinner at Harvard, who set up his Skinner boxes and systematically demonstrated how to shape the behavior of, let's say, a pigeon in a learning environment. He did that so well, in fact, that most of us are behaviorists in ways that we probably are not even completely aware. There's the Skinner box for you. All right, so after the birth of behaviorism, or alongside it at some point, are the humanists. And humanists, Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, wanted to kind of bounce off of Freud in a way and kind of develop a brand of psychology that wasn't about this hidden master that could drive you to make decisions, but rather they kind of proposed that we are the master of our own homes, and that we had, as Maslow said, a hierarchy of needs. You start needing food, water, shelter, and you can work up to be fully expressed as a human to getting inner fulfillment if these bottom parts of the pyramid are in fact established, which leads to all kinds of interesting conversations as we look at that briefly. I'm going to scroll ahead here. Here's another nice depiction of somebody. This is Carl Rogers, and another link to learning. And then we have to kind of, take into consideration as you study the cognitive revolution. Behaviors are interesting, they're measurable, they're countable, and indeed they can be shaped by the environment. But folks like Noam Chomsky and Jean Piaget, a developmental psychologist, wanted us to think about the influence of the inner world, problem solving, cognition, memory, all being highly influential in directing our behaviors. So in other words, we're not just, if we can go back, we're not just rats in boxes being shaped by the environment. As Skinner said, we are that to some extent. I do think humans work very hard for rewards. However, our inner world, our thought processes, are also vital to how we get to where we're going in the world, and also can be studied, because you can interview people and they will tell you their thought processes. So while it's a little bit less observable, it is still studyable. All right, as we kind of get down towards this part of the chapter, feminist psychology. So we have to let the feminists have equal say, trying to, in fact, correct some of the earlier perceptions about women by not encountering their own perspective often enough. Multicultural psychology, of course, doing the same thing, asking all types of people their experiences. And that has come such a long way, and I think we have to just keep embracing and thinking and developing our thoughts along new dimensions, including contemporary psychology. This is kind of cool fields that are evolving in psychology: health psychology, positive psychology, psychology related to evolutionary perspectives, neurological, biological. I mean, every year there's new techniques to look inside the brain, to see the functions of the brain. There's some really great research being done on infant brains that was not able to do before, these tiny sort of like little mini MRIs that you can have babies in to look at the way they're thinking. All right, so I'm cruising through. The rest of the chapter is showing you how the course is laid out into branches of fields of study: developmental, cognitive, personality. And this is your lessons will be laid out during the semester: social psychology. So many great experiments I'm thinking of here. Yeah, here we go. Wow, so incredible. This looks like the ad will pay you $4 for 1 hour of your time. However, what really happens to you is you ended up in Stanley Milgram's lab, where you were asked to give to submit to the authority of people telling you to push buttons that would administer what you thought were real electric shocks. Right. So that was also the beginning of discussions in the field of psychology about ethics. Okay, I've hit the 10-minute mark, and while we like fireside chats, we don't want to keep them going too long. As you go through, you want to look at clinical, the different branches of actual practitioners in psychology, working as clinicians, therapists, forensic psychologists, and then you can go through and look at the different careers and degrees that are offered, where we get these degrees, what departments offer these degrees, and career options. Okay, I hope you found this helpful as a little precursor to your studies in psychology. I'm just cruising over the key terms. These are sort of like the ending credits, aren't they? All right, have a great time looking at chapter 1 and getting on with the rest of the work here in the first lesson content. All right, take care and goodbye for now.